Caitlin.
Hello.
All right, I'm gonna leave y'all to it. Rebecca should be back shortly.
Oh, good.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, my pleasure. If you need anything, let me know. Julian, you want water or something?
I'm fine, thank
Okay.
you.
So that means that there won't be any votes today. We
Sorry.
won't be able to vote on anything today. We can meet but not vote.
Oh, yeah, we won't be, we can't vote without a quorum. The quorum is 5. So,
Okay.
hi, Caitlin.
Hey.
I think we'll get started right away. The only person we're really missing is Laura, because Scott, Tommy, and Luke all begged off. And
Hi, Caitlin.
and Rebecca.
Hey.
Great, great.
Ooh, not quite a quorum, huh?
I was just saying, they've been dropping like flies. Rebecca, a lot of organizations don't meet in the July, August for this kind of reason, I think.
Sure.
But anyway. So Caitlin, and Rebecca and Nikita, I look forward to sort of having a good conversation today, but obviously we won't vote on anything.
Okay.
So
We still have 8 minutes until 2, so.
yeah, but we changed it to 1:45 a couple of meetings ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was new
No,
information.
that's
Well,
okay.
it shouldn't have been new information,
You're-
but I didn't
You and
realize,
Nikita
which
are here
means,
at wonderful time and. Caitlin,
that means I was late. Apologies.
Is it till 3? Like it's 1:45 to 3? Is that the standard meeting time now?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we did actually, that should have been in the minutes somewhere. The meeting before last, but anyway. So I will call us to such order as we have it. And I won't do a roll call because I know who's here, but I will note who's here in the absence of our secretary.
Do you need help with anything?
No, that's all right. Oh, actually, if you would keep some notes, that would be cool, just as a duplication of, you know, I'll miss things. So I have Caitlin, Nikita, Rebecca, and myself. And all of those other people I will note as excused. I always like to acknowledge people who say they can't come. Okay. We don't have minutes, I'm afraid. I hope Richard is okay. I don't know what he didn't submit minutes. I didn't realize that until today. So I should have nagged him for some minutes, but anyway, I didn't. So there we are. The public comment, there's no public today, so good. Maybe you could Caitlin, you weren't at the legislative committee meeting, were you?
I was not, no.
Oh, and is that Laura? I guess.
No, it's Len. Sorry, Len.
What?
Len Luca, not Laura.
Oh, okay.
Len
Sorry.
Luca.
Okay. Oh, Lena. Yeah, okay. Lena. Yeah. Sorry, Lena. Okay, good.
My actual name is Eleanor and Len is an abbreviation, so I don't know. You might remember me as Lena from something, so I'm fairly new to this committee, but I was supposed to be on the climate action plan subcommittee.
okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think those of you guys who, and I think that's Caitlin and you, Lena, weren't at the legislative committee. You weren't supposed to be, and you weren't either, were you, Nikita? No, you weren't.
No.
But anyway, it was a very interesting meeting. We had it with the Public Works Commissioner, Josh Pallotti, and he enlightened us a lot about sort of the how the bluebird bags are working and things like that. I don't know, would you care to sort of just summarize? what
Sure,
else?
yeah, I think I would also, I mean, he answered several questions. We had several questions to send his way. And we talked some about Councilwoman Matavetsky joined us and mentioned some of what they'd learned about Cortland's system and when Cortland transitioned from the pay-as-you-throw system to what they're currently using, which is trucks that are picking up cans. We talked to Commissioner Paludi about that, and he represented reasons why it wouldn't be conducive within the city of Binghamton. We talked some about how the full program is budgeted and kind of the cost benefit analysis in that it doesn't fully pay for itself. It pays for the tipping fee, but doesn't fully pay for itself. So we got into, I would say, some like, I don't want to call them technicalities, but like technical aspects of the program as it's currently run. And then Tom, for example, but I want to say maybe Scott as well, had some workforce specific questions. So he answered all of the questions. There was some difference in opinion, I think, related to the public perception of the current system and potential alternatives. We didn't get very much into alternatives. It was really just an overview of like existing, his experience, his team's experience, and what they've somewhat more of a presumption of how they feel residents think about it rather than necessarily a representation of what they've heard from residents, because I'm not sure there's a direct connect there.
Thanks. Okay, I think as we, I mean, the main subject I wanted on the agenda today was obviously discussing the waste disposal issues. So I think we will probably bring in some things that Josh said as we go along there. But let's just continue with the agenda here. Are there any other committee reports? But let me just say first, you asked about the Climate Change Committee. Basically, we haven't done anything, and we should and will. I guess we've just been consumed recently with this waste disposal issue and another issue before that. So, but we will get on to that. As far as I know, none of the other committees have met since our last meeting. Any comments on that? Yeah.
I think my only comment would be that we did under new business today, we do have a discussion on committees and structure. So
Yeah.
to your point of being able to kind of reinvigorate existing committees, that should be on today's
Yeah,
or in
good,
today's
because I have some ideas on that, as I mentioned, Rebecca. And Caitlin, you nicely outlined them several months ago, and we'll sort of go with that and work on that. But let's I will, by the
Before
way.
we proceed, I just want to name that the water plant September date. Probably we should try to set that sooner than later before their
Yes.
schedule fills. I know no one's here today, so today might not be a good day. But maybe offline we can firm that up.
I'll put it back in the chat just to see who.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I was just going to say, we will now, I think, take up the waste issue. I hate to keep labeling it blue bags because it's not just that, but I will not allow it to consume our whole time because I want to get to one or two other things. So, but let me just sort of frame what I think we've done, and let me just frame that, and then you guys can chip in with any revisions. First of all, we had your wonderful analysis, Caitlin, which I know you had help with from Rebecca and others. But that was really very helpful, and I want to frame our discussion today in terms of that. So we also sort of have had the some resources. I found the paper that a student wrote for George Holmesy's class very useful too. And I had posted that 6 months ago or so, along with several other papers. It's entitled the PAYT, Pay As You Grow paper. And I found that illuminating and useful, because the student had actually done not only some literature research, but some research on the ground too. Let's keep in mind that there is a mayoral campaign and that it promises, well, if the challenger to Jared Graham actually wins the election, it promises some major changes. So let's just keep in mind that we want to make a recommendation to City Council, but that things may change in November. Or, of course, the mayor doesn't come on until January, but anyway, let's just keep that in mind. Particularly as the challenger has made a strong commitment in his campaign to get rid of the blue bags. So we'll see. Now, what I think we've actually sort of said we've settled is, first of all, that we did say that, composting, we would leave until we find out how the new initiative between the cooperative extension, Vines, and the city plays out. And we actually took a vote on that last time, and we said we will just postpone that as an issue. But I'll just add that I think when we submit something to City Council, we would say that in the future, this more city involvement, something to this effect, more city involvement in the composting issue would be highly desirable. Okay. We also more or less decided by, I think by consensus, that that your third recommendation, or your third alternative, Caitlin, about a three-stream system modeled on what San Francisco does, is probably beyond our means and will not resonate very well if we did recommend it at the moment. But once again, I think that's something we should say, hey, there's some very good things about a three-stream system, and we should say that in our report. So I just want to set these up as sort of things we will set aside for the moment. And what I do think is we haven't talked at all much, Caitlin, about your hybrid pay-as-you-throw system, which is basically a tag system. It's sort of like the blue bag now. At least it doesn't require much change, but it does require that residents buy a tag to apply to their garbage. So actually, I would say that let's start with that and just say what we think about that. To me, my view, it's got a lot of positives. It's in a way a simpler system. You just buy tags and you can put it on anything. You can put it on your garbage can, or you can put it on bags at the curb. And so it's recycling would still go as usual, but the pay-as-you-throw idea is still incorporated in that. because you have to buy tags. And if you want to put out more than one garbage can, you've got to buy more than one tag. So,
Could,
so,
Caitlin, would you mind doing more? Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
Would-
go
Could
ahead.
we just do more of an overview on what hybrid would look like? I'm not sure I understand the tag system.
Yeah, and honestly, that one kind of morphed from like the version 1 document that I had shared, but the way I have it listed following our last meeting, the way that I summarized it was it retains the pay-as-you-throw pricing structure, but introduces low-income subsidies and a switch to city-provided tag system usable on any household bag. So the conversation a little bit was like, you could put this, like, let's just say it's a sticker. You could put the sticker on any sort of bag. And then that would be paying for the sticker is how you'd be paying for your waste disposal. I believe it was Luke raised a concern of staff not liking waste management staff not liking this because it would be harder to spot with the inconsistencies of like visually what is waste as they're driving down the streets. And that's all I could really recall at the moment of the conversation. I don't know if others, Len, you have your hand up if you want to go.
So I was just thinking if we can get more cooperation with people putting their bags inside a covered bin, how would the trash haulers, I mean, say I stuff 3 bags in there and put a tag on one, they aren't going to be reaching into my trash bin to find out if I use the right number of tags. They just pick up the bin and throw it in, or is it up to them to figure that out? What do they do with it if they don't find a tag and it's in the 3rd bag in the bottom?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's another question too, because similar to that, my question was, let's say if you can put it on a bin or a bag, then and people are talking about like being equitable, like just like even just looking at a bag, you can have different sizes of bags. So is it limited or is it any bag? So somebody could have a big construction bag and that's a bag, where somebody might have like a 20-gallon bag or a 50-gallon bag. So it's like, how do you if you're trying to make it equitable, like how do you do that? Or is it like one sticker is for so many bags? Because then if you have a can, like, and then like to your point, like, are you gonna have, would you only have one bag in there? Do you have multiple? But then if you can have multiple bags, cover a sticker. So like that's one question. I think like one of the issues with blue bags, which they're supposed to be in cans, people don't put them in cans and animals get into them. And so then if you have a system where you're still leaving bags out, like granted, you can have better quality bags, but then the bag qualities do vary. You're still not addressing the issue of trash getting everywhere. So then you just do it so then maybe instead of putting it on bags, you can put it on a trash can. And then maybe limit the size of what that trash can could be. But then it's like you pull if you have like the cash, let's say you can put on a trash can, are they constantly gonna have to pull off the stickers off the trash can? So I think it's a good idea in theory, but there's a lot of issues that need to be figured out.
Yeah, Caitlin did put in her proposal sort of a discussion of the Ithaca system. And what they do is they limit any bag or garbage can to 32 pounds, okay? So in other words, you can, if you have more than 32 pounds, you've got to use an extra tag on something, okay? And the other thing they said is you can stick as much in the garbage can as you want to, as long as it doesn't exceed 32 pounds. So I think that's the limit on what you were saying, you know, is that you can't have one sticker for multiple bags and then tie them together and say, hey, this is, anyway.
How do they measure the weight?
Yeah, Rebecca?
Well, that question, but also, so if we're trying to achieve a hybrid model that maintains some of the structure, but isn't as financially burdensome. And addresses some of the like amount of use impact pieces. Would a better hybrid option be a certain, like a certain size can, like anything that fits in the can is taken care of, but like is free, like is provided by the municipality? And blue bags still exist if you are like need more than what fits in that can?
Yeah, that was one that came out of the last meeting's discussion that was new, that kind of replaced the 3-bin model that was being spoken about. So that's captured as enforced can process. Existing system with enforced use of can with I put 2 can limit per household. Blue bags or alternative tags could be used for excess refuse needs. And I believe it was Nikita, I thought maybe you had spearheaded that idea, but I very well could be wrong.
You look lame, not as well clean.
I had, yeah, because I had put in the notes that you and Luke as the enforced can process, because
Yeah, well, Hadassah has been reminding several groups that blue bags are supposed to be inside a container. That was the arrangement. What's happened is people don't put it in, most people don't put it in containers, and the garbage people that pick it up find that very convenient, because they could just toss a bag in the truck, and they don't have to take the can back. What I'm kind of thinking is that the blue bag system actually has made that quite easy, or easier, I should say, for the collectors. But if they went to a system where you're tagging something, you're going to have a lot more cans probably, and and that's going to be more of a labor for the collectors, and that may be an issue of personnel. We might have asked Josh Paluti what he thought about that, but it's a little bit hypothetical. You don't know how many people will just put out a bag and how many people will put out a can with a sticker on it. But I'll bet that if we did any regulation like that, the mandate would be to put stuff in a bag, because you're beginning to get the idea of all kinds of bags. You know, someone may put out a paper bag, grocery bag, and say, hey, that's a bag, put a sticker on it, but if it rains, then there's problems. And varmints definitely do get into paper bags. I think they have a harder trouble with the blue bags.
I mean, I am right with Len in the questions that were raised about the tax system, like the actual, like the bag at the bottom of the can, how it just seems like it would be much more difficult for collectors to determine which bag is like to be picked up and which isn't, if we now have cans that have bags that are tagged and there's multiple bags.
I think the idea, Rebecca, is you'd have a can and you can put as many bags in it as you want to, untagged, and you just tag the can, but it better not be more than a given weight, like 32 pounds.
Okay, because we have switched to a city provided tag system usable on any household bag.
Yeah, I see. Maybe, I think if we did end up recommending a system like this. We might want to say that there has to be a weight limit on the bag, whatever it is. And that would, I think, take care of that problem.
If
In other
the-
words, if you have a can that's labeled as under the weight limit, nothing has to be labeled inside the can. Does that make sense?
It's a lot of, it would be a lot of presumption that folks are following because the can is a size, not a weight.
Yeah,
So the bat, like if there's a weight limit on the bags inside, regulating that will be next to impossible. And then to Nikita's point, if we're using a tag system on a can, like you put a tag on the can once, do you take it off every week and replace it with a new tag? Do we have to do different colored tags every week to make sure that people are using the right, like that, it seems beyond regulation.
I could see a slight problem there, you know. So, I mean, you could date it, but you could fake the date too, so I don't know.
Or do they get like, they mark it somehow, so then
Yeah.
like you can't, cause either the people that are doing the garbage would either have to mark it somehow. Or damage it, so then it would be clear that it's already been used, or the people that are doing the garbage disposal, they'd have to actually take the tag off. So now that they're taking
Right.
these tags off, where are they putting them? They're just throwing them in the truck, like, where's it going?
Yeah,
And then that could slow them down, and they might not wanna do that
Yeah.
either.
Is number 2, the enforced can process? I mean, that's also a hybrid. Can we call that one the hybrid model? Do we definitely want to keep a tag system as part of the conversation?
that's a good question. I'll
I think
bet,
we could, we could tease it out, yeah.
I'll bet that the public works people would say, it has to be in something. Something that's, roughly rainproof and, vermin proof. That's my guess. Well, I guess let's keep that in mind, and why don't we go back to the fundamental issue, which is the current blue bag issue, okay? And what I might just say is that I'm gonna put out my opinions first. My opinions are that I don't like the idea of more plastic going in the landfill. But I would point out that paper bags don't decay very well in the landfill either, because they become anaerobic, that is, no oxygen. And therefore they don't decay very fast anyway. But you might say that when the archaeologists come around in 500 years, that which they do, you know, they're always digging up waste disposal areas and finding out interesting things. But anyway, if they came around, probably most of the paper would be decayed, but the plastic wouldn't. But in the short run, paper does not decay very well in anaerobic conditions. But and look, I have another prejudice or opinion, and that is that the blue bags are good enough. Josh sort of said he had very little trouble with the blue bags, and that he actually did an experiment where he put in his backyard, I guess, he put weights, he said 20-30 pound weights in the blue bags and messed around with them, literally, and he had no problem with them. And there is the issue of the occasional blue bag, which he admitted that's defective, but anyway, my opinion, and I'll just express that, is that the blue bags are good enough. And if we suggested getting a more heavy duty one, which is quite possible, as Luke pointed out, you just put out a new contract proposal. But that's even more plastic going in with the landfill. Rebecca?
I think based on Josh's representation, good enough may be true, but from the feedback that we've gotten from residents, it's not good enough. It's not working for residents. And that would be the perspective that I prefer to, I think, base a program and or policy decision on. But I also, and I mentioned this in the chat earlier today, I don't think we have done our due diligence as a commission and the commission could decide that it's up to council members, but in truly getting resident feedback. I know that there has been some conversation around the fact that Miles Burnett's petition has garnered, comments from, at this point, I believe over 1,000 individuals about the blue bags. That's extremely useful information, but if folks are uncomfortable using that information from the petition, given the fact that it's an electoral year or a mayoral election year, like I would still want to, even if we're not doing it, I would want to include in our recommendations that some effort toward resident feedback is part of the final decision-making process.
I
Go ahead.
was gonna say, I quite agree with that. I was sort of looking at it as a social equity issue. Less people in less affluent neighborhoods apparently find blue bags, purchasing blue bags difficult.
Right.
And what I was thinking is a necessary part of any recommendation we made, if we went with blue bags, that there would have to be some kind of way of of making that issue better for people who have limited means. And maybe I think that's sort of subsumed under your idea of getting residents' opinion. That was certainly the major point of the article that Holmesy and Hart published back in 1921 on a survey, 2021, on a survey that they did in north of Maine and in Binghamton. And that was one of their chief issues was that the blue bags weren't working very well there, but the overall issue was that really there was a big necessity to consult residents more, and they would have found out perhaps a long time ago that it wasn't working in the north of Maine neighborhood, which is, by the way, about 85% rental and a lot of transients, and there's an education issue there too.
Yeah.
So,
What
do you think of all that?
Nikita had a comment.
Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna ask. I think of it, we can come back to, oh, like if I remember, so if, like with the blue bag issue and getting public comment, like would it be a would it just be public comment, or would there be like a referendum? Like, would there need to be a referendum? Could there be one if you really wanted these, if you really wanted constituent feedback, like, okay, put it to a vote and like let the voters decide if they want it or not? Or
I think getting the feedback, I would not recommend public comment during a city council business meeting or even a town hall, just because it's not targeted enough. Folks can't, very often the folks who have opinions and are directly impacted are not the ones who have the capacity or schedule availability to show up at City Hall for to give public comment. Which is why, the survey, the survey approach that Miles' campaign took was extremely effective. So I think broad surveying, taking that survey door to door, like that's the only way to actually get feedback. In terms of a referendum, like allowing that is the the point of a referendum,
Mhm.
but that would, I mean, that would be up to the group. Referendum can only come around during an election year. So I mean, we wouldn't be able to actually include a referendum for community vote until, so we would have it would be 2027, like next city council.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to do it next year during the federal elections,
I don't.
because you'll have the midterm elections.
I'm not sure. I'd have to
Okay.
check.
I mean, that might be longer than one would want to wait, but I guess like if it were that contentious, then if like, let's say if it did go for referendum. Then if the residents decide and like one way or the other, then it's like, okay, then it would fall on the residents were the ones that decided, so if people didn't like it. Then it could be like, okay, well, it wasn't. It was the residents that decided, but then if I can also see not doing that, going that route either, but yeah, it just an idea. I didn't know if it needed to be, and like when, I guess like maybe this is a question for offline, but like when are referendums appropriate? Like when do you have to do them versus like are the referendums when they are done, is it like kind of like you want to include them, you don't have to have it as a referendum, or?
My understanding is actually, I shouldn't put this on record. I
We
think
can talk later.
asking the clerks, like
Okay.
our clerks would know.
Okay,
When a referendum is absolutely required versus just an option.
okay,
Perhaps what you're. How about sort of focus groups, you know, an obvious place to do focus groups would be neighborhood associations. Unfortunately, most of the original neighborhood associations aren't working now. So, but that would be a place to start. I think the south side and part of the north side are working. And find some other way to
Yeah, something
do
existing.
focus groups in the east side and west side.
yeah,
I think the West Side Neighborhood Association continues to meet.
Oh, does
I
it?
know,
Good.
yep, Kenya and Robert go to that. Hadassah and I go to South Side. Actually, East Side has a, Mike has represented a strong neighborhood group there. So I think, I don't think that's a bad place to
Okay.
look for focus groups.
Okay, yeah,
Julie. Yeah, that's a great idea.
okay, I'm trying to take notes in the absence of the secretary. So,
I did have my hand raised. Is that okay?
oh, yeah,
Sure. I just wanted to affirm what you're discussing. I really, really appreciate it. I think I might be, let me fill in my background a little bit for why I'm affirming you. And then let me apologize that I don't have the full information on things and then ask for the information that I'm missing. So I used to teach research methods and I'm very acquainted with the weaknesses of survey methods in general. And I did read George Holmes's paper with his student. And they did highlight that sometimes the neighborhood associations represent a dominant view that may or may not be authentic. And that was part of the disconnect with the community. And from my work now that I do as a community outreach coordinator, it's definitely the case that if you hold a town hall meeting, you'll get a big negative outcry, but it won't be constructive and it won't be for the population that's underrepresented. And if you hold a referendum, those work great for certain types of big policy issues, where you, but again, it would leave out the most important segments of the population. So because I'm new to this, the part of the information that I'm missing is when the crews go around to pick up the trash, what neighborhoods do they have the most problem in and what is their problem? And I just haven't heard from the trash people because they know, they know, and maybe we don't have to do a whole survey of the residents because the shyest residents are not going to answer the door. And if you're transient, you're not going to answer the door. If you're unhoused, you don't have a door that's gonna be answered, but you're leaving trash, where you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, did we have a discussion with the trash people? Sorry.
Not, I mean, just with our most recent meeting, that committee meeting with acting Commissioner Paludi was the closest we've gotten. I had asked him to consider bringing an experienced collector with him. But he didn't, so I think that workforce perspective is still something that's missing. I think from a constituent perspective, what I would say, well, not just constituent, but also having worked in the homeless services and housing sector for 20 years, most commonly when it comes to blue bag issues, the feedback I've received has been the low income renters where trash is piling up because they don't have the financial capability to purchase the blue bags. And so code comes into play, where code is being called for garbage accumulation and trash and litter. And there's a disconnect there, not only financially directly, but also our code enforcement is extremely weak. And so even having technically the director of code could ask or request DPW to pick up an over accumulation of garbage that has risen to the attention of the code department, but I'm not sure that's being done. It's in the charter, but I'm not sure it's being followed. So that's the feedback that I've gotten in terms of challenges.
As an outsider, could I ask just a really off the wall question? So if we did a big bid for a contract to get thicker, heavier garbage bags, and then we did a study of income people and then decided the levels at which incomes could be funded, and what the price of the trash bags could be. I'm imagining it would just be cheaper to give the ward representative their office, $100 worth of trash bags and say, hey, if you have any residents who aren't coping, here's like $100 a month. Just tell them to stop by and pick up a bag.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some nonprofit organizations and mutual aid groups that regularly take donations of purchased blue bags so that they can hand them out. And that to the community that they're already well connected to the folks that know they serve a meal on this day or having a clothing closet or pantry on another day. So yeah, I think that's if part of the modified piece is keeping it with making some changes, I mean, that's worth looking into for sure.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'm not saying that anything I talked about was a good or a bad idea, but I appreciate you letting me ask questions and that you took the time to explain it so carefully. And thank you for your experience.
Sure. Yeah, on the social equity issue, interesting that some NGOs actually hand them out, but one thing that the student in his or her, I think, paper outlined was the idea of connecting it with SNAP applicants. That they could, SNAP applicants presumably have to go to the I don't want to say the welfare office, what office is it?
Department of Social Services.
Yeah, that they have to go there, and maybe they could, if they have to go there, they could work out some kind of exemption. I mean, this would be something that the city would look favorably on, I'm saying potentially. And that they could therefore get a break on the price of blue bags.
This probably can't be done, I don't know, but could they use like an EBT card to purchase blue bags? Maybe like there could be a allotted amount of, maybe not a way to do that in maybe New York State system. But then have it, so not everybody that has SNAP gets cash benefits, but I mean, if they did get cash benefits, maybe like people that get cash benefits, they can get an extra allotment for blue bags.
I see.
So my,
I mean, I'm rather ignorant on this, but SNAP recipients actually carry a card and that's what they present? Yeah, okay,
so the allocations, the benefit assistance amounts are determined at the state level for every county. And so Broome County has a very specific, just table based on household size of what a recipient households can get, whether it's SNAP, public assistance, cash benefits, housing, etc. So and that's driven by the state. So I don't think that it could necessarily be like automatically or arbitrarily included as an additional assistance amount or an additional allotment.
Mhm.
But if it's a like shared service conversation with the SNAP office at Broome's Department of Social Services that identifies a City of Binghamton resident household that is eligible and receiving SNAP benefits, who gets a card that they can then use to purchase blue bags, that's how I think it could potentially work. If we're relating it to SNAP eligibility, and I think we would want to reduce the amount of times that a household would have to ask for like this exemption or this reduction. I would say shouldn't be an extra step in any process or hoop that they already have to jump through. Because it's not as easy as I think a lot of people assume to get all of the benefits that households are eligible for. So that could, it's worth a conversation. I'd be happy to have that conversation with whether it's the commissioner of DS. I'd probably just go right to the SNAP office to ask, but if that's something that the group is interested in, I could ask.
Thank you. Yes, I would say yes.
Yeah, yes, okay.
Yeah, good. And yeah, I would want a system which is of course equitable, but also one that doesn't put big barriers up to getting that exemption or benefit. So because that, I think basically people who we all don't particularly like to go through a lot of red tape, as we call it, but the less red tape, particularly for people who are on the financial edge, is really a nuisance. Is more than, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say nuisance, I should say it's a barrier.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then also too, not only financially, then the other issue is you have a big food desert on the south side, for example. And so that with that Weiss that closed, people that could walk to Weiss that didn't have a car or just take the bus and then take it back. Now, like if you forget a bag, it's the night before a garbage night and you don't have bags and you don't have access to a car and you can't just walk somewhere, that's another barrier too.
Council member Matavetsky has done some work in increasing, particularly on South Side East, with increasing the number of vendors who sell the blue bags for that exact reason. Probably not enough time in today's discussion, but I would like to talk, given, Southside East, food desert, I know food access and food insecurity isn't necessarily a focus of this group, but there has been some progress among neighborhood groups relative to like a ride, share and shop initiative. So maybe once we're done with blue bags or at some point we can incorporate into the conversation kind of what's up on Southside East. with the lack of the grocery store, but. Or not, that may not be relevant to this commission.
Okay, once again, we can't do a vote, but we can come to a tentative conclusion. Today.
Before, I'm sorry, before we do that, Caitlin put a lot of time writing all of this, and I just haven't heard Caitlin say exactly what they'd like to have done.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I did take time writing it, but my objective was to synthesize like very concrete proposals that were coming out of the conversations. Personally, I am still struggling with like where I really thought we would be coming to a little bit more of a discussion and decision today, and thinking through the timeline, and the closer we get to November, the more apprehensive I am on like putting stakes in the ground, if you will, on next moves, because it could change so rapidly.
Yeah.
But I am more in favor of a hybrid system where we can just improve the existing infrastructure, and yeah, try, the change is very hard to happen. So as much as we can keep consistent and make that improvement, and then, maybe we have a 3-year plan where we take that next like little jump to make things even better again. But my perspective is to like really try to maintain some of the autonomy or consistency that the workers have, and so that they so that we aren't like imposing something on them, at the same time very much not enjoying litter on my street. So I don't really have a stance on which one of the proposals I would back, if you will. Yeah, my role is more to try to synthesize a lot of ideas coming out of the room.
Yeah, thanks. Let me ask Rebecca, what would the city council, I think they would like to have us sort of digest the issue and present some options, but, and let me ask, city council, say the new mayor, say we get the Democratic candidate for mayor. Let's just say this hypothetically, and he says, I want to abolish the blue bags. He can't do that without city council, right? So, good. So we're
Yeah,
not
there's-
working in a vacuum here.
Right, yeah, I mean, the executive branch is responsible for implementing policy
Yes.
and legislation, but it's city council that is responsible for making changes to the existing structure. So insofar as something is encapsulated in the charter, it needs to be changed. That's where he wouldn't be able to just come in and.
Yeah, okay, so back to what I was also beginning to say was that, what do you think city council would like most? Just perhaps a just presentation of our opinion on the issues.
I think the analysis itself is helpful.
Yeah,
Right from the jump, the analysis is definitely helpful. It's informative. And I think the extent of the discussion, I don't know that city council necessarily needs or expects a recommendation stating this is the best and should be considered the primary option.
yeah,
I think what is most helpful, but that's up to the commission. If the commission is okay with a general analysis and representing discussion that is informed and presents potential alternatives, without necessarily recommending one or the other. And maybe we change it, maybe we just change it from a recommendation to an analysis and, representation of potential alternatives.
well, good, thanks, yeah. Why don't I, here's an offer, but you guys can trump it if you want to. Why don't I write up a summary of where I think we are on the issues? In other words, a tentative analysis that we would present for city council. We would discuss that at the next commission meeting, and we may or may not come up with anything fairly final at the next meeting. I do think that the missing members, which are 4 of us, should really have a voice in this. I sympathize with their excuses. It is August and there are a variety of them, so excuses, I mean.
Do you mean in addition to the analysis, so version 2, the analysis that Caitlin has? Are you saying you would write up kind of based on today's discussion, what the,
Oh, no, I was thinking based on all of our discussions, including primarily Caitlin's analysis. Maybe Caitlin would like to do that. I don't know. I just didn't, you've done a wonderful sort of presentation of issues and would you like to do that, Caitlin? I don't want to.
Yeah, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're envisioning, but I feel like that's what the version 2 document is.
Yeah,
It it very clearly outlines what the concerns are and like where our discussions have like led us around durability and quality and like how will this like functionally work for workers and pests and equity and access to vet. Like it kind of covers like where all the problems are in the current
Yeah.
infrastructure, and then has at the start of the meeting, at least the 3 proposals that we had kind of synthesized things down to at our last meeting.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, I think maybe we would add a 4th, which is like an even more simple hybrid system that you referenced. I feel like that is what I'm hearing you say would be a good next step. I think just reframing this instead of a proposal as just like I already forgot what you called it, Rebecca. But yeah, go ahead.
and I would just say capturing the like resident feedback piece and the like social equity piece in this as well from today's discussion, to me would round out where we're at.
Yeah, I can add that to the document and then recirculate this. And then
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get all of that. I'm having a little hearing issues. But Caitlin, would you like to sort of summarize just the state of our discussions then as a sort of appendage to your document, which I think is, very useful for city council to see.
yes,
Yeah,
I can add the 2 pieces, the resident feedback and social equity, to the list that is there. I don't feel comfortable reflecting the conversation like as a more detailed or more narrative than what is already here, just because I think there is not consensus anywhere, and so I don't want to
No, that's true.
misrepresent or weigh one thing over the other. I would rather provide a list of like, these are the things that came up when we discussed.
Yeah. Okay, why don't I write up a summary of just what we've said today and what we thought we were. I mean, this is almost like writing minutes, but maybe I'll do that in the form of some minutes on the meeting, okay? And how does that sound? I'll write up some of our discussion of your proposal, but keeping in mind that we probably will submit your analysis to city council. How about that? Is that the sense of what you're saying? Thanks, Lynn.
When would city council possibly vote, do you have a time frame or
I,
like when you want to
no.
discuss?
no, I don't. What this does is it's extremely informative and is valuable and helpful in that way, but what city council would need to do is then look at the existing system as it's written within the charter. If at all, because there is, I mean, there's a good bit of implementation and internal policies and procedure that again, I mean, function, but aren't necessarily codified in the charter. So it would be a comparison of like what needs to be revised or added to the charter. So, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a timeline from city council's perspective. But because we've gotten so this sitting city council, theoretically, we're almost at the end of 2 years now, has identified blue bags as a priority primarily because we hear from constituents so much about it. So I think this acts as a helpful, a meaningful catalyst for us to then now kind of take it on. So what I envision is when CCE presents at a work session, like presents the proposal, whatever we end up calling it. And I do hear you, Caitlin, in saying, because I don't know how comfortable you are with us calling it your proposal, but I hear you saying like it's the synthesis of the discussion. It's the commission's proposal. So I think what I would envision in terms of trajectory is the commission presents the final product and then city council decides to put it on a committee for like actual legislative revision and discussion. I mean,
Okay, thanks. That
likely
sounds
how
like
that would
a decent approach.
that answer your question?
Okay, so,
Unfortunately, I have to peel. So I am sorry. I only had an hour on my calendar for
Yeah,
this.
no,
But I have made note that it goes until 3 for the future.
I sympathize. I will write up something and within a couple of weeks, okay? And submit it to the commission as something to work on, okay? And I will I'll basically append it to your analysis. Caitlin, is okay?
Great. Yes. Thanks.
Yeah, I will do that.
Have a good one, everyone.
Rebecca will go to the SNAP office maybe, and the social services, try to think of the right word, not welfare. But anyway.
So we have 6
okay.
minutes. Do you think we still want to get into committee structure?
Yes,
Okay.
so Caitlin is, yeah, gone. Yes.
Okay, we have the concept doc.
So maybe you could just explain what you were thinking about.
Well, I mean, we had some transition a few months ago relative to committee chairs. And that has put us in a position of having unchaired committees, but also even prior to that, we hadn't developed a structure for committees and committee meetings. So what Caitlin shared with me, which I believe she shared with the group before I was ever on, so it precedes my time, is just a concept doc that explains the role of committees, the names of the committees, and the operations of committees. So it's just and I think I put it in the chat earlier today again. And I think it's worth spending focused time on so that moving forward, we have chairs, we know everyone's capacity, we know when meetings are happening. My primary concern, I'll say as a member and as a council person, is that the Climate Action and Resiliency Committee has not been meeting. I'm not as concerned with the Ecotoxicology Committee. I I think the Public Outreach and Education Committee needs a focus if it's going to do public outreach and education, and we aren't really there yet, so it doesn't seem entirely relevant for them to meet until we have a topic to do public outreach and education on. I mean, the Transportation Committee is certainly relevant. So, and we only have the one task force, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the only
That's right.
task force is the Native Gardens one. So to me, I mean, I'm primarily concerned with the fact that climate action, transportation, and Native Gardens isn't meeting and reporting. But I think this document itself should be discussed, reviewed, and voted on. Obviously, we can't do that today, but
Okay. Yeah, okay, I think that's a good idea, certainly to discuss it. I think the original idea of the committees was that they would decide sort of, how they did things. Certainly was that they would elect their own, chairs and secretaries if they wanted. And, in other words, it was more of a states' right kind of thing. That is, they could design their committees the way they wanted, but
which
Uh,
could still be true. It's just that the only committee that's actually meeting is legislative.
yeah. Well, I could say thank God, because we don't need more work to do. But I agree, and I would just say that I didn't, after our problem with the committee chair, I didn't sort of neglect, I did ask various people to convene the committees and to elect a chair. And that really hasn't happened very successfully. I asked them, particularly on the education, the legislative, and the climate action. We have a chair. It's Luke, and what we need to do is just do some things. The Siemens contract was never sort of presented to the commission as something they wanted to comment on, except rather tangentially at the last minute. And we didn't ever see the whole idea for that. And so, but that should have been in with the Climate Action Committee, and we should have gone through it. But the fact is, we just didn't get the information, and so what I did, incidentally, Rebecca, it was when city council met. I had 3 days before, we were shown the idea of actually monitoring the part of the contract about monitoring greenhouse gases in city buildings. I never even knew about the rest of it until I went to the council meeting. And there you were discussing all sorts of things about charging stations, and I had never seen any of that stuff, and that never came to us, frankly. So anyway, all I'm saying is that we did do something on that, but that we didn't have the information. But so, Rebecca, you're good.
So I'm not chair and can't be chair of the legislative committee, but I would be okay convening the legislative, or like reaching out to folks who are on the committee or have indicated interest to try to schedule a meeting before our next full membership meeting to discuss that legislative committee portion of the concept doc and fill it out. The other piece, so if Luke as climate action chair wants to take on a new version of what we're calling the Siemens contract, I mean, I think I would I would say just let me know, and I can talk. I can ask council about that if it would be. I mean, because what council didn't want to do was drop it entirely. So if that would just be, me asking Mike Council President Dundon.
If you would, yes. that would
Okay,
be
so go
great.
ahead and ask.
Yeah,
Okay,
And-
now wait for Luke. Okay,
and tell them, I mean, I'm on this climate action
Okay.
committee and I really care a lot about climate action. And so I would like to do whatever I can to help the
Mhm.
city sort of progress on that.
I wonder if there's someone, I know we're at 301. Councilmember Matavetsky is the ex officio member on the traffic board and heavily engaged with like Scott Regal, Broome, the BMTS folks. So I could ask her if she thinks there's somebody else who would consider joining this commission to chair transportation if we don't otherwise have the interest among current or capacity among current members.
Yeah, anybody can ask to be a member of a committee. The commission, you know, we're full at the moment, the
Yeah,
city council has to vote on that. But
oh, okay,
but if
Yeah.
if somebody outside wants to be on a committee, we did pass a motion a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, I guess, to admit you know, non-commission members to committees.
okay.
So,
I'll see if Hadassah has a recommendation.
good, thanks. You do a great deal for us, Rebecca, thank you.
Okay.
And
No problem.
okay. We will pick this up at the next meeting. And I think we will leave it there for now. I would suggest we adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank
Yes,
you, Len. Or do I have a second? Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Good. Next meeting was on this agenda, September 18th, here at 1:45. Thank you all for hanging in there.
thank you.
Yeah. Good to
See you later. Bye.
I'm not do this with my-